Greetings, fellow humans. I am Hugh.
And I am Man.
And together we are definitely not
Two
kobolds in a trench coat. We enjoy human activities, such as paying taxes,
having existential crises,
and RPG horror stories. Let's see what we've got today. Up first, we have a DM who just couldn't stop inserting bigotry and their own creepy fantasies into campaigns, and a party who were forced to run every session.
DM ruins multiple D&D games with bigotry and evil sexual fantasies. Trigger warning, racism, sexism, SA, incest, and anti-LGBTQ+. By Reddit user Turek Zoo.
Already going for the full bingo card here.
I'd say we started drinking game, but I think y'all would get wasted in the first few paragraphs, so this started several months ago, and since the beginning, it has devolved into an absolute horror story. I'm almost 21, and back in my first year of high school, I met this friend. He's ADHD, like me, so we got along pretty well. We maintained contact for a few years, didn't talk for a year when he moved away, then started actively hanging out again about 2 years ago. Around the beginning of this year, I was invited to join his D&D campaign, a homebrew world based on video games, full of neat little references to obscure games with an actual homemade title screen song and great music. I'm still amazed at how awesome the world he managed to think up was, but as the campaign progressed, some issues popped up. For context, this was technically my first campaign, as my real first was with a bunch of first-timers that didn't know the rules and floundering about with nobody really learning anything, not even how to level up properly. I picked a warlock, and the rest of the party was, if I remember correctly, a wizard, rogue, barbarian, bard, fighter, and paladin. As things went on, I started to notice that, as a warlock who reserves their spell slots mainly for big plays or things outside of combat, I never got the opportunity to use them. Every single NPC, in every town we came across, could sense magic. Not just see or hear casting, but sense the presence of magic anywhere near them and knew who cast it no matter what. They could even see through disguise self. Add to this the fact that basically everywhere, magic of practically any kind is outlawed.
So places having a problem with magic is nothing new in D&D campaigns in my experiences. It can come up quite a bit. There can be places where it's frowned upon or questionable. However, when it's everywhere, that creates a real problem. It means the whole campaign is about avoiding this. They've got nothing else to do. You can't solve problems as creatively if you're constantly worried about when you use magic and the after effects of that. It really takes away the whole purpose of the game if it's the entire game.
Yeah, if you have to constantly be worried about getting caught for using a spell in combat or otherwise, if you're a full caster, you basically don't get to do anything. But it also means that you miss out on some of the really fun role-playing moments. I know I talk about fun role-playing moments all the time, but that is like half of D&D. And you miss out on the fun ways that you get to use magic, like disguise self.
This does seem like they've taken it to the max, especially if they can just automatically see through disguise self without any kind of roll. Okay, you have some abilities in D&D which do allow that, but they're typically reserved for high-level monsters and enemies. If everyone can do that, it then just becomes redundant. What is even the point of the spell?
I feel like the DM had this idea of like a magic-resistant world and then just took it way too far in the mechanics of it, because, like you said, you can have a world where people are skeptical of magic, or it's frowned upon, or in some ways it's illegal. But when you have literally every single occupant of your world just knowing that somebody cast a magic spell and just knowing who it is automatically, that's not even metagaming, that's like god tier NPC. So anytime me or the wizard try to cast a spell to manipulate someone for information, even if they're evil, we would get punished by the town. Not only that, but anytime I tried to use spell slots in battle for spells to control or hinder opponents, the DM would have the enemies find some way to instantly end the spell on a turn. So my spell slots were completely worthless for anything except Misty Step and damage. Now, if he'd made it clear that this is how the world worked, it would have been fine, but when we brought it up that we were going to be casters, he didn't even mention it in passing.
And then we come into the classic communication problem. As OP said, they would be okay if the world was this way. I mean, I wouldn't want to play in that world. A bit of it's fine, but when it's the entire world, as I said before, it's very frustrating. But this is something that should have definitely been mentioned to the players in advance once they brought up they were going to be casters, that they were going to be playing with this massive handicap.
Yeah, that is definitely something you want to bring up to your players if they are going to be playing full casters. If you'd brought it up to the players at the time, then they would have had a chance to either change their characters or just change their approach to their characters and maybe talk out a way that they can use magic. Instead, he just hit them with a handicap right out the gate without communicating, and that's just bad DMing. But things got worse when I started to realize how racist all of the NPCs were towards non-human races. In practically every town, we would be treated like garbage by some of the citizens. But it got worse. Some entire villages were so racist that the non-human PCs were referred to as pets for the hour or so that we were there, and literally would not be allowed to talk or we would be persecuted. Not only that, but we had no way to get back at them either. I tried to charm the wagon driver into liking me and treating me with some respect. No, you're not allowed to do that. I tried to fight back against the NPCs that intended to subjugate Dragonborns, of which I was one. No, you guys can't do anything about him. This made the game incredibly unfun for both me and the wizard, as we were both non-human full casters that couldn't do a single thing in 50% of the towns that we could only talk the rest. The wizard is also great friends with the DM.
This campaign now just feels like it's entirely about overcoming these obstacles, as in overcoming real-world obstacles like racism and controls on the way you live. There's almost no element of fantasy here. This is just literally a real-life problem simulator now.
It's worse than a real-life problem simulator because, at the very least, most people, even racist people, don't refer to non-white people as pets. I mean, I'm sure some of them do. So it's actually worse than the real world, for once. Also, it's one thing to have problems and have the campaign be about problems that you're trying to overcome, but when it's all problems and no solutions, you've made a problem that's even bigger than the problems you're trying to overcome.
Yeah, you've got to give your players a means to solve the problems. It's okay to have bits here and there about overcoming these kinds of things. That's fine. Should probably be mentioned in advance, but it is absolutely something that is okay in small doses and with the consent of players. When it's the entire game, it just becomes worse than a real-life problem simulator.
So we bring it up to the DM. We tell him it's not fun for the spellcasters. We want our characters to be treated with respect, and we want freedom to make choices. His answer? This campaign is an extension of myself. Changing it would be the same as changing who I am as a person. So sorry. But if you don't like it, don't be a part of it. For a while, we were on semi-decent terms. I thought that maybe he was just bad at DMing and had a couple of quirks here and there. Then I noticed he seemed to make a lot of jokes about me being gender fluid and making insulting assumptions or statements about my ethnicity, I'm Polynesian, and having, I'm a straight white male and I'm proud in his bio. So I got real uncomfortable around him.
There's your cue to run right there. If they got white and proud in their bio, you're Polynesian, this is almost certainly going to come up at some point. Yeah, you might have had a very good friendship with them, but this is a kind of flag to be cautious about with anyone.
It's like a blaring red flag. That, and I can't believe the melodrama of, this campaign is an extension of myself and changing it would be like changing a part of me. So you're saying you're racist. Also, as someone who creates things like art and writing and things like that, guess what? People get to criticize your stuff. And sure, you probably put your heart and soul into it, but not everybody wants to read that or see that. There are going to be things that people don't like, and sometimes you gotta let it go. So the racism was bad enough. But would you believe me if I told you that he's sexist too? In a campaign run by another friend, we were both players. For the first time, he was playing as a woman. Now, this was just as we started having differences, so I backed out because I didn't feel comfortable. It turns out I dodged a bullet. As I mentioned before, this was his first time playing as a female PC. And of course, non-stop, every conversation he ever had with everyone was him playing his character as a horny prostitute, even with other party members. This was bad enough. But then, according to the group after I left, he said the ultimate goal for his character was that she wants to be essayed and unalived. And these were his actual words, not just an implication.
Because of the implication.
Needless to say, he was eventually booted because he made every single other player there uncomfortable. Some of them actually had experiences with SA, which made it worse, especially considering he knew about it, yet still continued to flaunt his female PC whose purpose was getting violently SA'd and unalived by presumably the person that violated her.
And somehow he got worse. After the racism stuff, I really thought that was it. Well, obviously not from the title, but apparently he did find a way to go even worse. He's made it incredibly obvious there that this is a projection of a fantasy he has of doing to someone. So yeah, run away fast, OP. Getting out of there was the right call, and please just stay away from this guy.
Yeah, I mean, we've covered stories actually of men playing female characters. Almost every time, it ends up feeling like some sort of weird fantasy situation, but this is like a whole new level of messed up.
This guy is a hair's breadth away from being on the evening news.
He's going to end up being an inspiration for an episode of Criminal Minds or something like that one day, I swear, because that's like textbook serial killer.
Hopefully not, but the flags are there.
This led me to finding out a bunch more things about him in his everyday life, like how every time he meets a woman, he instantly views her as nothing but a potential sex object, and expressing disappointment to his other friends if she turns out to be a lesbian, never acknowledging them as a friend. Or the fact that he has an IRL incest thing, claiming that if he ever had a daughter and she wanted to do it with him when she was of age, he would accept. That's disgusting enough. But considering his mindset towards women in real life, and the horrific SA fantasies he wants to play out in RP involving IRL friends, I struggle to believe that he would ever think he requires her consent. TLDR, DM and friend of multiple years, fills his own campaign with bigotry and anti-fun design, ruins another friend's campaign with fantasies of wanting to see a woman get SA'd, and is eventually revealed to want a future IRL relationship with his biological daughter. Edit, forgot to mention, this man and I are no longer on speaking terms, for, well, obvious reasons.
Easy there, dude. This guy really needs to slow down and chill for a minute. There's so many things wrong with this guy. I think, yeah, he pretty much got the bingo here of horror stories. We've got the terrible world. We've got the SA. We've got the racism. We've got the bad DMing. We've got being that guy in a campaign. I'm really struggling to think of what box this guy hasn't ticked.
Ooh, that's a bingo.
Yeah, no, I got nothing. He's definitely ticking all of the wrong boxes. Like, he's not just even a walking red flag. I feel like he's like billboard that says, "Do not come close," with flashing lights, Vegas style.
Yeah, the only other place you would see this many red flags would have been a Victory Day parade in the Soviet Union.
Have to say, the one nice thing about him is that at least he said all the quiet parts out loud so that everybody knew to steer clear of him.
I'm just happy OP got out of there and he got booted from that game, so at least OP is safe, and I just hope we never hear about this guy again. You can always run away, except that's all we do, by Reddit user Flare Supply. This is a funny little tale from a couple of years ago. We've all heard the advice before, you can always run away. This campaign was one where that was advice our DM wanted us to know, but maybe was a little too intent on letting us know. Session 1, an attack on the city we are in by demons. Well, we're low leveled, so of course we have to run. Session 2, we hide out in a tavern and get in a bar fight, with level 20 adventurers. So of course we have to run, again. Session 3. We investigate the woods. Wouldn't you know it? The hag we stumble across has 15 zombies, and as we're trying to thin out the hordes, the M says, you could always run if you feel overwhelmed. Session 4. I'm really not exaggerating about the number of sessions. We encounter the demons, again, and haven't leveled up since we have exclusively come across things that we can't even try to kill yet. So we run, again. After 4 sessions of literally not being able to do anything, we ask the DM, who just reminds us, you're low leveled. If you feel overpowered, I want to teach you you can always run. So after that, we ran and made a new table and campaign.
Yeah, I think that DM was just a little too focused on teaching them how to run away. And good for them for running to another campaign.
They took his advice. They ran.
I think it's kind of a weird thing because I feel like instinctually most players know they can run away from a situation. And if they are in that situation in the first session, it's going to be stuck in their heads that they can run away and not allow them to level up. Like, you should level up to level 2 after at least your second session, tops.
Going up from level 1, I've actually pretty much always had as being set after session 1 if you're starting at level 1. It's the training wheels level. You immediately move on and get some better stuff after you've just got that first bit of play done. And as you say, session 1, having to run away from a big enemy, fine. I think a number of official D&D campaign books actually start this way or have this very early on. So it's a very valid thing to do for session 1. But after that, you need to give your party something they can actually fight, dude. Come on.
Well, how fun is it for anybody, including the DM, if all they do is run? There's no challenge for the DM, there's no challenge for the players, and then everybody gets kind of put out.
It's true. The best part as a DM is getting to play all these cool monsters. You get to access all these cool abilities that they have and fight against the players. It is one of the best parts about DMing. I suspect the DM was probably planning to come back to this stuff at later levels, particularly the demons, but you got to get your party to those later levels.
Yeah, how was he planning on getting them leveled up? Did he just not know how to run combat?
Well, he's clearly going with the XP system from what they were saying. So, yeah, if they can't actually fight anything, they're never going to level up.
I don't know. It's a very weird style of DMing, and I guess we'll probably never know what his ultimate plan was. But as we said, good on y'all for just taking his advice and running away from him.
Hey, man.
Hey, what?
What do you call an Aarakocra rogue?
What?
Robin Hood. A special thank you to Amita Maru for that joke. If you would like to submit a joke or a story, you can write your joke in the comments or email either of them to the email in the description. And with that, we have definitely not been
Two Kobolds in a Trench Coat.
Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and make the necessary sacrifices to Tiamat. We'll see you next time.